All right. So, my name's Eric Finley, and my family has been in this community since 1860s. And they started right down on Plum Street, Plum and Chinkapin,
Now that's
which
in
we all
the
know
bottom.
as the bottom.
The bottom.
Right.
That's the back of the bottom.
Beautiful families, okay? My dad, his brothers, his sisters, and they ultimately, served their time in the Army and got their GI Bill, and they became pharmacists. And they opened up them drugstores, Finley's drugstore.
Okay.
There was like 8 of them throughout the city at one time.
Okay.
And they were kind of like community stores, with soda fountains. It's like Chamber of Commerce. People come in there and solve all the problems in the city.
You guys have a
While they're
deep
drinking
ties.
coffee.
You also have deep ties with Mardi Gras here in Mobile as well.
That's right. Big time Mardi Gras. But, because they put their businesses in the community, they always was a part of the community. And so now here we are, third generation, trying to give back. And the first thing, my cousin Dora established African American Heritage Trail. And it was the result of our current councilman, William Carroll. Is that him getting out there? I can't tell. He don't drive no vehicle like that. I can't tell. It look like him. So William was on the Chamber of Commerce trip to Boston.
Okay.
And he saw a sign that said Black Heritage Trail. He said, that's interesting. This was back in the 90s. And he took the tour and enjoyed it. He came back to Mobile and he said, I think we could do this in Mobile and do it very well. Started looking around somebody to take on the opportunity to the challenge. Well, my cousin Dora, she said, I'll do it. It was an opportunity for her. And she started finding African Americans in places since the 1700s that had made contributions to the city of Mobile.
Now this must have been a tedious task right here.
Yeah, because when you see those markers, all that information on those markers must be vetted and validated by the Mobile and the Alabama Historical Societies. It just can't be her story, my story, your story. It's got to be the real information.
Can't just go out there, just trying to
It ain't
gaslight
folklore.
people.
It's not folklore. It ain't griot. It's documented.
And I don't want to make it sound like what did you say, hearsay or something like that, but this is co-signed by them folks.
Yeah.
By them folks.
That's right. They approved it.
Yeah, no, so,
And so
I said that, he didn't say that.
So we established a historical civil rights trail, African Americans that made contributions to the city. And it's history that should be in our history books.
This should be taught in all of the schools.
It should be, okay? Because it's about businessmen, it's about doctors, teachers, professors, regular people that just made great contributions. You ever been to Winsel's?
Yes, sir.
There's a marker right in front of Winsel's. You know what the name of it is?
What is it?
Roger Williams. Now, where have you heard Roger Williams?
Roger Williams is also a community here in the Mobile area that's recently been torn down for improvement, but it's one of the projects here in Mobile.
That's right.
That house low-income people.
So when it was established back in the 1950s, it was members from the Korean War. They were returning home. There was some beautiful families that lived there. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
And that was named after Roger Williams, who was initially a pharmacist in Mobile in 1890. 1896, this brother decides he wants to be a doctor. He goes to Meharry Medical School, becomes a physician, comes back to Mobile in 1900. And that's where he opened his doctor's office upstairs, drugstore downstairs, right there where the restaurant is today. And his house was in the parking lot across the street.
That's awesome.
And so we tell you about him. If you remember Roger Williams, it sounds like it might be a little bit before your time. The first street in there was Simonton Drive.
Okay.
The other street was Brazier. Those were black doctors right there on Dolphin Street in the 1890s.
That's something that I've been in Mobile for over 30 years. I never knew who Roger Williams was. Why wasn't there a plaque?
It is a plaque. It is.
And Roger Williams. Well, I thought the people know who
if
it was
it was
named
there,
after.
they would have torn it down by now.
Yeah.
So we got it. It's down there on Dolphin Street.
No.
But
I'm not a betting man, but I bet you we can go to Tomerville right now, right off St. Charles and 45 and MLK, and ask 100 people who Roger Williams was, and they probably wouldn't know.
now I'm gonna tell you, here's another. You know, there's this big statue right here on Spring Hill and Broad Street,
Yes, sir.
and there's two people on that. One of them is Mr. John LaFleur.
Now there's a school here in Mobile.
LaFleur
Hold on.
High
Isn't
School.
LaFleur? That used to be Tomerville High School, and they renamed it after him.
They named it after him.
Okay, now who was he?
How many people wouldn't know that that's named after him? He was president of the NAACP for about 40 years.
About 40 years.
You hear me?
Okay.
The guy next to him he lived in Mobile, said he went to school in Mobile, he grew up in Mobile. He said he never met a black person until he went to the Korean War. He goes to the Korean War, the first thing he sees is a black man saving a white man's life. He said, oh my goodness, everything my dad, uncle, grandfather told me is a big story. Actually, it's a big lie. You get to know blacks very well.
No, this is LaFleur?
This is in the 50s.
And this is LaFleur.
No, this is the white guy, the other guy on the statue next to him. All right?
Okay.
So he comes back to Mobile, been back about a month, and he said, oh man, he called up some of his war buddies and said, let's go to lunch. They said, Joe, his name was Joe Langham. They said, Joe, we back in Mobile now, we can't go to lunch. Jim Crow, where we gonna go? So he goes to University of Alabama, becomes an attorney. Comes back to Mobile and start moving around the city, trying to eliminate the Jim Crow laws. In the process, he meets Mr. John LaFleur, who was registering every person that he knew to vote, including poor whites. And y'all, we got to get out and vote. We got to vote this November. It is so important, okay? So, they meet each other and realize that they were basically had the same goals in mind. And so, a lot of people don't know in the 60s, Mobile had a civil rights movement. There would be marches going down what was then Davis Avenue, that's now Martin Luther King.
Now, can we touch on that real quick? Because I've heard stories. I have family members that be like, go over there, that CVS right there by Davis Avenue, and get my medicine, and then you go down there by your auntie house. I'm like, Davis Avenue?
Right, they called it the Avenue back then.
Now, who was it named after?
Well, that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story.
See, the reason they call this the campground, you know, they call everything from Lafayette Street to Kennedy on the south side of it, the campground. Everything on the other side of the avenue was called what? The bottom. So the campground during the Civil War in the 1850s, this is where all the Confederate soldiers stayed. You got me?
And they would naturally
name
name
they
streets
named
after
that
their-
street Davis Avenue after Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederate Army.
Now you're a couple years older than me, I assume.
Yeah, I just work hard, man. I'm probably younger than you.
Okay. So how does it feel like you actually lived through some of this?
Right.
How does it feel to know that that used to be Confederate and that's our community now?
So, you know, as the story evolves, after the Civil War, the Union soldiers moved in to restore civility, right? So when the Union soldiers moved out, blacks moved in. We were not, you know, it was against the law for blacks to be educated before the emancipation, right? So when that happened, when schools were open and when blacks moved in, when the Union soldiers left, unfortunately, we were not very educated. So what we were doing was domestic work, right? So we could come across Spring Hill Avenue. All of these communities were the white communities.
Oh, right.
Dolphin, Government Street. We were doing a lot of housework. You could do that work and then come on back home. So that's how the blacks that became that area.
The hell.
If you go on the other side, the bottom, we was there because that was the least expensive area that you could live in. Plus communities were redlined, what we call.
Yeah.
Banks wouldn't loan blacks money for homes or businesses.
And they
so we had to stay.
Imaginary districts created to keep people in, but mainly to keep us out.
That's right. That's right. So all of that developed. But see, growing up, we didn't say Davis Avenue. We would just say the Avenue.
Okay.
All right. But here's what's beautiful. It was a community, bro. It was a community. Davis Avenue, you could come over there. There was doctor's offices, drugstores, photography shops, restaurants. There were hardware stores, paint stores, 3 black grocery stores. Our family had 3 drugstores over there. And there were 3 other drugstores, just to show you how much activity was on that street, which was only about 2 miles long. It was 3, 4 schools, 5 churches. So look, it had a day life. You see people going to church, going to school. Had nightlife. Nightlife, they party. Clubs, dance halls. But look, your neck wasn't hurting back then, because you could go out and have a good time. And you didn't have to worry about it like we do today.
Now,
right?
Where we're standing at right now, we're on Spring Hill Avenue. We are actually 1 block away from Hurton Avenue, and this is a story that is being taken out of Alabama history, which is a required course in Alabama to graduate. In that grade, you have to take Alabama history before you take world history. And they're taking out the black experience, but you also lived through an experience where a young man lost his life around the corner.
Now, I grew up in the area, then I went to Xavier University in New Orleans. So I was gone for about 20 years, because I stayed over there. And when that took place, I really was not here. I didn't move back to Mobile until late 80s.
No,
and that happened.
I was a child when it happened, but you getting letters from mom and dad and coming back home.
It was nobody in this city believed that could happen in 1981. 81. And so this brother had just graduated from Murphy, lived in Orange Grove. He had been playing basketball, and story goes that he was going to the store to get a pack of cigarettes. These 2 white boys apprehended him, took him somewhere. Now, and they killed him. And then they brought him back to this street 1 block from us and hung him on a tree, but he had already been killed. They hung him on that tree.
Yes.
And to make a long story short, they lived right across the street from where they hung him on the tree. And they were sitting on the porch watching. And finally, Donald Dees, who was director of the Southern Poverty Law Center in Montgomery, and Michael Figures, who was a state senator and an attorney, and his brother, they took that case and they found out that this guy, Benny Hayes, was the culprit. And this other guy really went to talking and said it was Benny Hayes himself and the dad. And Benny got the electric chair. He got the yellow hammer up there in Atmore. And the other guy got life in jail. And the dad died before he could be sentenced. Okay. But again, nobody ever thought something like that could happen. And the story is that a white policeman had been killed in Birmingham, and they apprehended this brother. And there was so much tension in Birmingham, they moved the trial to Mobile, right there on St. Joseph Street, federal courthouse. The trial went on for 2 or 3 weeks. They couldn't find the brother guilty because he probably didn't do it. You know how they would just arrest somebody. Mm-hmm. And so that Friday when he released them 2 white boys that heard their daddy say, if a black man can kill a white man can kill a black man. Well, ultimately they find out that this boy's daddy was the head of the United Klansmen of Alabama. And check this out. So he had brainwashed them boys. But check this out. The man had a fish market store right down off of Virginia Street down the bay for years. And guess who all his customers were?
Black people.
Yeah. But you know, in the night, they put on their hood, You don't know who it is.
So there's a term I hear a lot. They say Black lives matter. Black dollars matter, but black lives don't matter. Where you can serve us all day and then serve us up on a tree the next morning. But this is Mobile history. Now we're opening up Spring Hill Social Event Center right here at the 5 Point Shopping Center. Used to be where Greer's and Family Dollar used to be. It's right there.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Right there at 5 Points.
Yeah.
I would love to have you as a guest, but I don't have this background music in the background because YouTube's going to mute some of this because there's music playing in the background. I'd love to sit down and talk with you. I could go on a tour of the things. I have the list now. I could go and get the B-roll footage, the background footage myself, and then point it out to you and you can explain it to me.
We can work that out. That's what we do.
I would love that. I really believe this should be taught in schools, and I'd love to see y'all, get this implemented.
We do this. I have tours with LaFleur, Viga, Blunt, Murphy. I even had Grand Bay come.
But know it'd be awesome?
Huh?
Would it be awesome though? How about Baker, McGill?
I
and
do
let
it
them
with
know
McGill.
who they're sitting against.
We did a whole workshop at UMS and St. Paul's. They had the assembly. They brought the whole class, the whole school in.
Yeah.
Every year, University of South Alabama bring their leadership professors.
Mm-hmm.
I do history tours with Spring Hill. I do all class reunions with Blunt, Viga, and some of these teachers say, "Oh my God, I taught for 25 years and didn't know some of this history existed."
Nah, I got to sit down and talk with you.
Here's the real story. The South lost the Civil War, right? Mm-hmm. But guess who wrote our history?
The North.
Who?
Woodrow Wilson, right?
The Daughters of the Confederacy.
Oh yeah.
So they ain't writing
I know about that.
About black people.
But the Daughters of the Confederacy and Woodrow Wilson actually changed the itinerary for the schools, for public schools, require people to go and learn his story.
Well, one of the things I know he did was vocational technical schools.
Mm-hmm.
They were segregated, so you had the black vocational technical school and you had the white. So if you went to a white voc tech school, let's say you were taking the electricians or plumbing, so you would go, you get plumbing 101, you get English, you get math, geography, all the liberal courses. At the black vocational technical school, you get plumbing 1, plumbing 2, plumbing 3. You didn't get the liberal courses.
Yeah.
You didn't get the English. You didn't get the math. You see,
the water
how
goes
all
in
of this
here.
Stuff,
it comes out there, and that's all you need to know, boy.
So, we have to understand all of this to understand why things are the way they are today. But the biggest thing, the most important thing, is that we gotta vote this November. Brother, a lot of the stuff that's happening today happened back in the 1870s. It's just a different facade. Research the election of 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes, the Great Compromise. There's some parallels that took place then to what's happening today. All right. Most people don't know, before then, Alabama had 5 black representatives in Montgomery in the 1870s. Louisiana had a black governor. Mississippi had a black U.S. senator. His name was Hiram, Hiram. South Carolina had democracy was working like it was supposed to. Blacks were in all areas of the government. 1876, they said, we don't think the electoral votes were right in 3 states. Threw it into the Supreme Court. Somebody resigned. It was only 8, so they couldn't make a decision. They threw it to Congress. South still upset because they lost all that labor, free labor. So they said, Rutherford, we will make you president, but as soon as you become president, you got to remove all them troops from the South. They made him president. He removed the South, moved all them troops out. Most people didn't know the 13th Amendment had a clause in it that said that if you were apprehended, incarcerated, you could be subleased back out to work.
Yes.
They went around and arrested
full
brothers
circle
all over the state. What they do? Put them
right back where they was at. Yeah, send you right back where you just left from.
We got to know our history. We got to know civically what's happening because, see, right now we're in that same scenario. Alabama was the first state to contest the 1965 Voters' Rights Act. Shelby versus Holder versus Shelby County, outside of Birmingham. Required 2 forms of ID. Most people didn't think that was a big deal, but they didn't tell the rest of the country. They closed all of the driver's license offices except for Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, where you get the approved driver's license. So what was it? It was a subtle form of voter suppression. Mm-hmm. Now, let's fast forward from 65 to this year. 5 weeks ago, the legislature passed a law that if you violate one of the parameters of absentee ballots, I don't know the particulars, bro, you could get up to 10 years in jail, and they don't give us that much for killing one another. So if people out there don't think voting is important,
Yeah, they're trying to lock you up.
voting is extremely important. If it wasn't, they wouldn't put all of these ways
Stipulations.
to suppress it. They didn't let ladies vote until 30 years after us. Man, look, you know I talked for 4 hours. Y'all got
yeah.
to come take the tour.
We gotta come sit down and talk with you.
Right.
Now, we see the name of the trail on the placards, but could you tell us the name of it again?
Dora.
And we're back.
It's the Dora Franklin Finley African American Heritage Trail. We have a website. You can go out to our website, get all of this information. www.Dora Franklin Finley African American Heritage Trail. Or you can join us on Instagram, Facebook, bless you. All of those social medias. You know, you can tag us and stay up to date. We do a lot of teaming with Africatown and the Clotilda and that story, you know, which was the last ship to come in with illegally kidnapped individuals in 1860. We take voyages up to the Clotilda. It's still 25 feet underwater.
Yeah.
But we go up and give you the story about
And all this information is available on the website?
Huh?
All the information is available on the website?
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to be opening up, doing the podcast, current events. We want to start a Black News channel. The long story short, we can market it as a podcast to get more followers. We want a Black News channel to talk about like this right here. Most people have never heard.
See, we're still unveiling history right now. We got 44 markers, and we got 4 or 5 being vetted right now. I mean, it's so much. They have camouflaged what we are as a people that it is just simply criminal.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
gonna give you a bell ringer, and then I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna just give you one of a lot of them.
Okay.
That's this beautiful statue in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it called? Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
And a country gave it to us. France. It sits right there in the harbor.
Send it short.
And most people don't know why they gave it to us. They gave it to us because there was a constitutional guru in France named Lambulet. And he was so ecstatic about slavery being abolished. He was so ecstatic that he said, I want to give the United States a gift, right? I want to give them a gift. The gift was the Statue of Liberty. The first statue had the torch in the left hand, had the shackles broken, holding them at the waist. This was during Reconstruction. When they saw things flipping, they took them shackles and dropped them down by the feet, partially covered them with the robe, and then put a scroll up that said, July 4, 1776, welcome, Emma. You know, I tell people all the time, fact check me. You go out to the Google it, Bing it, whatever search engine you use, put in Statue of Liberty, shackle, Statue of Liberty, Reconstruction, and the story will come up, and it ought to be in our history book.
And right here, above your head, gonna be a box showing the information. I'm giving myself a cue right now.
Right.
But you have to come sit down and talk to me.
All right, bro. That's
I'm ready to cook.
That's the deal. We got it. We'll do that.
Thank you.
But